Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week What's Up Wednesday, where we are going live with you on Facebook and LinkedIn every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about our upcoming 19th Annual International Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference. And that is hosted virtually on September 21st through the 23rd. We are now less than 2 months away, which is wild to me how fast July has been going, but we are so excited for it. So, my name is Anna Schramm. I am the planner of this amazing conference. I work at the University of Toledo's Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute. And back with us this week, we have our fearless leader, Dr. Celia Williamson, with us again. So, hey, Celia, how are you doing?
Good. Excited to be here.
Yes. So, over the past month or so, we have been coming on here talking about the variety of sessions and the knowledge levels and the topics that you can learn about. We have had some guest speakers on who have talked about their experience with the conference and what they're going to be talking about at the conference this year. So, we're going to continue doing that in the weeks and months ahead. But today, we're taking a little detour from that, and we are going to give you a little behind the scenes look at what it's like to even plan a virtual international conference. So, I think you have got some questions for me since I've been taking on the brunt of the virtual.
Right,
So,
right, because it has grown in level of complexity that even I don't understand. So my question is like, how do you even wrap your head around like having all of these sessions and people attending and presenters coming across continents and countries and states and cities and organizing the whole thing so that it runs so seemingly smoothly? How does that even happen?
I know sometimes, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Sometimes I have to step back and think, wow, there are people who are in all corners of the world who are coming together on this one online platform to hear from speakers and presenters or to connect with each other. And when I get into some of the nitty gritty details, I'm just, kind of doing my thing. And sometimes I don't even think about it. So I still try to wrap my head around it. But what's really cool about that is being virtual has allowed us to be reach more people, be more inclusive. So I think being virtual has really helped us in that way. Also, because we're bringing so many different kinds of people to the conference, we are very inclusive in that way. And I have been lucky that I have been able to just follow in your footsteps because you really laid the groundwork of having an inclusive conference. So, I mean, you mentioned that I think in our first live stream that we did, but tell us again, so how did you even start something that even from the beginning was very inclusive to all types of people from all different backgrounds, all knowledge levels, all, variations of the spectrum? How did you even start doing that?
I don't even remember what I said in the first session, but because because that was weeks ago, and life goes so fast, but so many things going on. But we started the conference back in 2004. It was really an idea. Um, you know, we need to get people together to talk about this issue because I know they're doing some really cool things in other cities and countries, and we're doing cool things here. Like, what's that called? Like, oh, that's called a conference. Like, let's have, at that time, a national conference because we didn't even think globally.
Hmm.
And so just started with really an idea and a student brave enough to put up a website and call it a national conference. And people were like, well, you can't just do that. And I was like, well, we did.
Well, I did it.
so, and so people just started coming from, all across the US and then over time globally. But the one thing that we do at the conference, and that's one of our mainstays, is to really respect the various ways of knowing. I mean, we're at an academic space at a university, and so it's sort of been a legitimized way of knowing in society. But there are lots of other ways that people share wisdom, valuable wisdom. They do it through their lived experience,
Mhm.
which is very valuable. They do it through the history of their people. They do it through running programs and passing laws, and activism that they've been involved with for years and decades. And that knowledge and that wisdom is just as valuable to us as something coming out of academia. We still respect academia, but we think there are various vast ways of knowing. And that's the way that you really start to stamp out oppression, because you allow the people who are experts, legitimate experts, to have a voice, have a platform, and to speak to the people.
Yeah, so I mean, you laid a really good foundation for that, and we've kind of just everybody at the conference knows that that's what our conference is, and I think everybody just continues to respect that and fall in line with it. So that's kind of made it, I guess, easy for us because everybody the conference is just known like that. So
Yeah,
kudos
yeah,
to you for doing a great job.
absolutely. And I mean, I just set the tone.
Yeah.
If you set the tone and you allow the creativity and you allow the genius to come into the space, they will create transformative knowledge. And that's what has been happening for years with the conference. But before we even get to the transformative knowledge and all the beautiful things that happen, all the things that are behind the scenes have to take place so that we can have this transformative space. So how we know that in reality, we know that you really don't have a committee. In other spaces in life, people have a committee, and then the committee will meet, and then they will discuss, and then they will decide, and then 3 years later, it's like
Yeah.
we don't have that time. So we don't really have a committee. So how do you pull all these things together? Because there is a million kind of moving pieces. So how's that done?
Yeah, I make lots and lots of checklists. I write everything down because I will forget it. So yeah, checklists kind of run my life. I have a lot of like organizational tools. One is Trello, and it's really just my lifesaver. So making lots of lists of everything that I need to do, so I know when I need to do it, and then communication has really just become even more so important to me, especially being virtual and not being around people. And that's not just communication. In like one type of way. So I would like to vary the communication because people do learn in different ways. So I communicate via emails. I make video like instructions on how to do things. I send it all in documents with some screenshots. So I try to just bombard people with communication so then they know what is happening and what to expect.
And I love that, because we know there are different ways that people learn and take in information. And, yeah, you have the written information. You have
Mhm.
pictures of the screen, and this is what you click on. I mean, and at the conference, you're telling people over and over that need to know this is how you get around the space. This is how you interact. And so
Mhm.
I think it really, really is helpful. Sometimes people need to hear it more than once just to feel comfortable, coming to a virtual conference. And we really haven't had on our evaluations people overwhelmed or not able to get around. Even people who aren't tech savvy seem to be comforted and they know how to get around. So, but every conference, they're not perfect, right?
Yes.
So so we try to be happy with the good and not the perfect. So, but can you talk about one of the less than perfect experiences that you might have had with the conference in the past?
Yeah, I think just navigating the ever changing and ever evolving world of the tech world has been a challenge because things do change and happen so quickly that you kind of like have to keep up with it and learn from mistakes from your previous years. And so you try something one year because you think it's going to work out well, and then you realize it doesn't, so you have to like go back to the drawing board. So like kind of doing that. I mean, some of the big ones that I can remember of less than perfect. 2 years ago, I only had like one volunteer per like virtual room, and that
Yeah.
was a big mistake. Quickly learned that you need at least two people in a room. So training my volunteers a little bit better. And then just some of like the tech things that you wouldn't think of. We have our presenters pre-record their presentations, just in case something happens. So we are showing those pre-recorded videos during the session, and then the presenters are there live to answer questions. But one weird thing I found out last year is that I had all of these recordings embedded in like PowerPoints. So then the volunteers could just click through and play the video all on the PowerPoint. But PowerPoint actually makes the video lag a lot. So it makes it a lot slower. It makes it a lot like the sound quality. And so, we did have a decent amount of tech issues with that. So one of the things that we're doing this year to change it is not have those videos embedded in PowerPoint, but just to have them playing off of whatever like video system there is. So they directly download it on their computer and play it that way. So, I mean, it's just, yeah, one of those things that you learn as you go from year to year. So, Celia, is there anything you can think of that was like, oh man, this was a big mistake in the virtual conference?
I cannot, because I just have an excellent conference planner who didn't share that with me. I didn't have to go through the stress of that happening and
Yeah.
having to fix it. So I really think that it's been, is it perfect? I mean, we don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. I mean, because some people, they kill their hopes and dreams just waiting for perfection.
Mm.
So in my book, it is an amazing conference and gets better every single year. But so tell me, in your world, what's been the most fulfilling experience, or one of the most fulfilling experiences running the conference?
Yeah, and it's harder to see when you're doing a virtual conference because when you were in person you would see things come together, kind of see the fruits of your labor. So it's a little bit different when you're virtual, but I think some of my favorite moments of the conference don't actually happen during the conference. It's usually the off season, when either like afterwards or even before, when I'm talking to presenters or attendees or volunteers, vendors, anyone, and they kind of tell me what the conference meant to them, how much they appreciated it, how much they learned, um, the connections that they made at the conference, and what they have been able to do moving forward with like the information, if they were able to like start programs or make connections or things like that. So it's really just like that ripple effect that happens, and just communicating with people in the off seasons. And I love to hear the stories of how the conference changed someone's life, or
Mhm.
made a huge impact, because especially being virtual, I'm just in a room by myself, so I don't get to see that. So really having people tell me those stories afterwards is probably my favorite part. So Celia, do you feel something similar? Is there another, what's your favorite thing with the
Oh,
virtual
same. I
conference?
feel exactly the same. I love when people collaborate much later and they get together and research projects spring up, or new safe houses come to fruition, or a law is passed. So
Mhm.
I love all that too. So other than that, I would probably say I love in the mornings when, we might say hello to each other, or where you from or whatever, and then people just start, posting in the chat sort
Yeah.
of who they are and where they're from, and like, "Oh, I'm from New Zealand, and I'm from Australia, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I'm from
Yeah.
California and Massachusetts." And it's just like, if you looked at the stars in the sky, you would just see like these little lights like light up, all not even only across the country, but just around the world, like the
Mhm.
world coming together, um, for a common issue, which is freedom and justice for people around the world. I mean, so
Yeah.
to me, that's another part amazing part of the conference is just seeing, and I imagine that's why this year you built in this new feature for people to be able to communicate and chat with each other so that they can continue to build those relationships. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's got to be one of my favorites as well.
Yeah. So, we've been virtual for 3 years now. Celia, I know my answer, but Celia, do what do you prefer, virtual or in-person conference, or is that hard to
Mhm.
say?
Yeah, like you, I think it's hard to say because I love them both. I love the in-person conference because I like the interaction, uh,
Mhm.
that I get to have with people and people get to have with other people. It's just something it's an experience that it's hard to duplicate, virtually. But I love the virtual conference because so many of our third world countries can participate now, and
Mhm.
where it really, really is needed if we're going to collaborate as a people around the world. It's really expensive for people in other countries to travel. So having it virtual is a wonderful way to curtail those expenses and to have a global conversation with people who weren't able to participate in those conversations before. So and the best, that the cherry on the top is that I can do it with my pajama bottoms on.
Yeah, yes. Good, let's be comfortable, right?
Right. So I gotta say I'm loving the virtual right now.
Yes, yeah, me too. I mean, I echo what you say. I think virtual is kind of also where our world is heading. And because we are an international conference and like really inclusive, and we have to all come together to really fight this and work on this. So being virtual has really expanded our reach and I think brought really important information to people around the world. So it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, so I think it's gonna be a great conference coming up, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think that it's gonna be even bigger and better than it's been in the previous years with uh about how many presentations?
We have 110 presentations. So this is our largest conference to date. We have 175 expert presenters who are going to be talking over the course of those 3-day conference. It's going to be very exciting. Celia, you had mentioned that one of the new things we are doing this year is the conference directory.
Mhm.
So this will be the first time that people really will be able to communicate with each other outside of maybe like chatting in a Zoom webinar. So if there's somebody that you meet, you want to talk to more, or even reach out to a presenter, you're able to send and receive direct messages. Just another way, really trying to bring all of the good parts of an in-person conference to the virtual world. So being
Yeah.
able to network and communicate and yeah, like figure out how can you implement this in your state or your country back home. How can I work on laws. How did you start this? What did you learn from this? So it's gonna be really cool.
Well, and so I guess one of my questions would be, tell the people what what they would be surprised, I would say, to know about you as a conference planner.
Oh yes, we're going real behind the scenes. I think probably. I mean, I know that it looks like I have a baby face too, so it's probably not a surprise. But I am only 28 years old, and I'm planning an international conference. I have to like remind myself this sometimes too. Like, wow, I'm doing this, and this will be my 5th conference that I've planned. So that means that Celia hired a 23-year-old who just trusted this young person to plan this. And really, I mean, I've learned a lot in these past 5 years, but I think I just keep reminding myself how honored I am to work with amazing people in this field who have been doing this work for decades. And I just love being that person who's able to bring all of these people together in one space. So that is really cool for me, how I'm able to play my part. And I think another thing that's surprising in this virtual world is like, I'm just running the conference from my apartment. Like, just this major international conference with people from like 47 countries around the world. Like, I'm just working away at it in my little apartment in Toledo, Ohio. And it's just like really cool that, you
Ah,
know, we're able to do things like this in a virtual space. So I love that.
And so why do you do it? Why do you do the conference? Why do you continue to do the conference?
Yeah, well, I think like going back to that answer before of just like the ripple effect that happens and hearing those stories and seeing the impact that bringing these people together actually has. I also think I am good at what I do. It really aligns kind of with my skills and with my passion. So I'm really good at taking a big picture and then figuring out how to make it work. I'm not one of those creative people who comes up with the big ideas. That's what I have Celia for. She comes up with the big ideas for me, and then I'm just really good at like the logistics and figuring out like how do we actually make this idea work. So and again, that aligns with something that is really important to me, so it's kind of just that perfect fit. And again, I'm just honored to be that one who's able to bring all these people to this space, because like I'm not a researcher, I'm not a direct service provider, I'm not a healthcare worker, I'm not a lawyer, but like I can bring all of those people into one space to talk and communicate and learn and collaborate. So I just we each play our part in the puzzle, and this is my part.
Exactly. And here's a tip for you all out there hiring people. If you ever hire people, you've got to play to their strengths. And
Mm,
then if you play to their strengths and you recognize their brilliance and you're not intimidated by their brilliance, but you celebrate their brilliance, then they will continue to outperform to better their best. And I think that's what you do, Anna. And we all love you for it. And the world
mm,
loves you for it because we're able to bring this massive conference and allow people to bring their genius into the room and then allow people all over the world to collaborate. So it's one of my favorite parts of my job and my whole life experience. This is going to be, I think, one of my favorites across my lifetime. And I hope that when people come to the conference, that something sparks something in
mhm,
them, and or they meet somebody that they can make a difference with, or they meet somebody they can learn from. I hope it's a life altering experience. If not, I hope that you walk away with a lot of knowledge and maybe a few new friends in
mhm.
faraway places. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Well, I know we ran a little bit over today than we usually do, but we just love talking about the conference and ourselves. So, Celia, is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up today?
No, I'm just excited. It's not far away. It is
Yeah.
coming up in September. So I'm just getting geared up and excited to have another year of this amazing conference.
Yeah, so if you do want to learn more about the conference, you want to register, our website is traffickingconference.com. So check it out. Thanks, Celia, again for being on here for this week What's Up Wednesday. Remember, we go live on Facebook and LinkedIn every Wednesday at 2 p.m. to talk about our upcoming conference. In the weeks ahead, we'll still be talking about some of those different sessions and topics you can hear. Next week, we have a guest speaker on with us, Scott Peters. He is going to be presenting at the conference. He's an occupational therapist, and we're going to be focusing on our healthcare related sessions. So come back to learn about that. Visit our website for more info. And until then, we will see you next week. Bye,
Awesome.
everyone.
Bye.